Now, a lot of people don't have a dedicated room to dry, so they use their grow tent for the process. I'm gonna teach you in this video how to set your controller to dry directly in your tent. The first thing you're gonna wanna do is set your fan speed on the on mode. Look, a useful tip is you could go back by holding this down. We're gonna set this at 4, and that's gonna be the trigger that sets on the auto mode. Then we're gonna press mode until we get to auto. And the first setting we'll set is high temperature. So right now we have it so that if the temperature on the probe, which is right here, goes above 78, then it's gonna trigger the fan on to whatever speed I set it on. That's what we set earlier. We're gonna make it so that it's maxed out, saying that it's never going to trigger on this temperature setting. You know, like 105 is safe enough. My room is never going above 100, so to play it safe, we'll put it at 105, and that'll never make it trigger on high temp. Then we're gonna go to low temp. We're gonna set this at, let's say 32. That means it's freezing. And by setting it at that, the probe is never going to go under 32, so this will never trigger the fan on. Now, the way that drying works is water from the buds evaporate and bring up the humidity inside your tent. So the only setting that matters is the trigger on the high humidity. We're going to set this at 60%, okay? Which means that when the probe reads over 60%, that is going to trigger the fan from going on. So we'll do that right now. Set it at 60%. Anytime this humidity right here, which is from this probe, which is gonna be placed right next to your buds that are drying, goes above 60%, this fan will turn on to the set on setting, which is 4, right? Now the low humidity does not matter at all, because if the humidity ends up going lower than 60, that means your buds are probably dry because nothing is evaporating from your buds enough to bring the humidity back up, right? So just to play it safe, I would just set this trigger as low as possible. Let's say 15%. And what I would do is pull out my buds once this stabilizes at around 58, 57%, because you know at that point it's just getting drier and you don't want your buds over dry. So that's it. 15% on the low humidity, 60% on the high humidity, 32 degrees on the low temp, that's never gonna trigger, and 105 degrees on the high temp. Now you want to seal all of the vents and just have one lower vent slightly open. That's going to retain as much humidity in your tent as possible. Now normally if you were growing, you would place this probe right near your plants. Since we're drying, we're going to place this probe 5 inches away from your actual buds. Also keep in mind that the tent humidity will never go below your lung room humidity. Your lung room is the room that your tent is in. So if your lung room humidity is above 60%, you're never going to get below 60% with the inline fan. You're gonna have to address that humidity using an external dehumidifier, and the one I use is linked in the description. If you have buds with a lot of foliage, you want to add an oscillating fan at its lowest setting to prevent pockets of humidity and bud rot. You also want to make sure your dry tent is in a cool room, preferably around 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Basements work the best. If you enjoy this content, smash that like, hit that bell, and for the best tutorials on how to grow, check out my site, hwgrow.com.